All right, so we're in section 6.4 through 6.8 test review. No worries. It's just the intro slide. So test review, we're going over concepts that will be covered on your test tomorrow. The first one is your corresponding side links to find the ratio. So you have figure A to figure B. You can choose any pair. So you say, well, I don't know side EF. Yeah, you do. It's a rectangle. What's the side length? 14. What side EH? 10. Okay, so really you can choose any pair as long as it's corresponding. So these two are corresponding to each other. So what I'm going to do is GH over PT, and now I'm going to make my substitution. 14 over 21 reduces to 2/3. And it doesn't matter what pair I choose. There's 4 pair, and no matter which pair I choose, it's going to reduce to 2/3. You only have to do one. All right, next question. Okay, so we have scales now. This says a map has a scale of 1 inch to 3 kilometers, so find the map length when the actual length is 90 kilometers. You must set up a proportion to get credit for this problem. So you need a proportion, use cross products or equivalent ratios, but show your work, and then box your answer. All right, I realize some of these are easy enough to do mental math, but that's only half the battle. I need to know that you're able to set up a proportion. So 1 inch to 3 kilometers, okay, our first ratio is always our scale. Then on the second side, you take the given information, and does 90 go in the top or bottom on the second one? It goes in the bottom because I got to match it up, inches over kilometers. So inches over kilometers again, and now I do my cross products. You have to show me the cross products equation. This is what we call a cross products equation because we did 3 times x and 90 times 1. Now divide both sides by 3, and you get your answer of 30 inches. Okay, you have 2 of these on your test tomorrow. Then you have a couple questions where it's find the scale without the units. So you're writing the scale without the units. That means you can't just drop it right now and say 1 to 3. You've got to convert them to the same unit, and then you can compare. So if you're trying to convert 1 centimeter to a meter, that's like 0.01 meters, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, like to have such a small decimal when I'm making my comparison. So I need to convert the larger unit. How many centimeters are in 1 meter? 100. Centa, 100. Milli is 1,000. All right, so if there's 100 centimeters in a meter, how many centimeters in 3 meters? 1 to 300. All right, who got that right? 1 to 300. Who got it right? All right, do you see? Do you understand? Does anybody have any questions? Okay, go ahead and solve these 3. Probability. I've got my spinner. This is very, very similar to what you have on your test tomorrow as well. Okay, so spinner. I've got a multiple of 3. And how many numbers on the spinner are multiples of 3?
6.
6 out of 8. 3/4. All right, now I get into odds in favor and odds against. Remember, odds in favor and against are favorable versus unfavorable, so it's not out of a total, but the 2 together make up a total. So, how many numbers on the spinner are greater than 12?
3, 4.
There are 4 numbers greater than 12, so that is my favorable outcome. Does favorable go on top or bottom? Top. Goes on top. Now, ironically, 4 is favorable, so what does that make unfavorable? 4 also, which is 1 over 1. Okay, you do need to leave it a ratio. If that ever happens, just make sure you leave it a ratio. And then, yes, 4 plus 4 does give you 8. So that's... technically, you reduce it. Technically. So that would probably be -2 on your test tomorrow if you forget to reduce. Yes, Isaac? Yes, exactly. So however many are unfavorable, how many are left, or I'm sorry, favorable, how many are left are the unfavorable. All right, so for the odds against a multiple of 2, well, multiple of 2 is still my favorable outcome, okay? So how many multiples of 2 are on the spinner? 4. So, but in this case, when it's odds against, my favorable outcomes go on the bottom, because against goes on top. But again, it's 4 over 4, so it's kind of hard to tell which one's which. Just remember, when it's different numbers, that's a pretty clear-cut right or wrong answer. You've got to go unfavorable over favorable for odds against. All right, the last question is one that's similar to your quiz. All right, if you spin the spinner 30 times, what is the probability that you will land on an even number? So find the probability, make it a decimal, and multiply by the predicted total. Okay, so probability of an even number. First, I have to find one probability. Well, it's kind of the theme of the slide, right? It's a 50-50 chance again. So 0.5 as a decimal times the predicted total gives me about how many times I would land on an even number. Yeah? Okay. All right, so that's some probability. Now let's take, okay, you have a question like this on your test where you have to come up with a word that the probability of selecting an E is 2 to 4. Then you're going to use the word probability, okay? Use the word probability. I've got people getting confused thinking they're taking it from the letters in the alphabet, like how many vowels to letters in the alphabet. That's not what we're doing. How many vowels are in the word probability out of the total? Odds in favor of an I in the word probability. Odds against a letter after G in the alphabet. So the sequence, that's in the word probability, not in the alphabet. Make sense? Dude, okay, odds against a letter in this word coming after G in the alphabet. Does that make sense? So, for example, does P come after the letter G? Yes. Then that counts as 1, favorable. Okay? Does B come after a G in the alphabet? No. So that is unfavorable. So then you would just answer this. Go ahead and solve these. All right. What word has a probability of 2 to 4 for an E? Feet. What is it? Here. H-E-R-E. What else? Seed. Feed. Deed. Seed. Seed. Yeah. What else? Huh? Need. Yeah, I just like come up with all like words that rhyme. Need. K-N-E-E. All right, so those are words that are 4-letter words that have 2 E's. Now, let's move on to the word probability. What is the probability that I would choose a vowel out of this word? 4 over 11. Favorable over total. Now, what are the odds in favor that I would select an I? 2 out of 9 or 2 out of 11? 2 out of 9. The total must be 11. But remember, it's favorable to unfavorable. So if there are 2 I's, that means there are 9 letters that are not I's. Okay, did we just get a light bulb? It's like that moment in Despicable Me. He comes up out of the hole and he says, light bulb. Remember? Yeah. I see the light bulb going off in your minds right now. Very good. Okay. All right. Number 9. What are the odds against a letter after G? So letter after G is the favorable outcome. So how many letters come after G in the alphabet in the word probability? 8. So here's my question though. Because it's odds against, does 8 go in the numerator or denominator? It goes in the denominator because favorable goes in the bottom. So 3 over 8. Where did I get 3 from? If there's 8 favorable, there has to be 3 unfavorable. Okay, so that's where the 3 comes from. All right, last question. Use the counting principle to determine how many outfits are possible with a given selection. 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 is what, guys? 120 potential outfits, possibilities, pairs. I'll take it. Okay? All right, guys, if you understand that, that's pretty much everything you need to know for your test tomorrow.